Great. I appreciate it's the end of the day. Thanks to the small audience. This is going to feel, thank you, Claire. This is going to feel very intimate, very lovely. Oh, there's a few people coming in. Come through to the front, please. So nice and intimate together. I'm going to get up as well because I think it'll be easier. Right, we're going to start because we want to start on time. Oh, there's a few more people coming through. Right, so got my degree, now what? Welcome to Get Shit Done. Before I go into it and interview this lovely panel, I know there's not many of you, but it'd be really lovely if we could get to know each other. So can I get you all to stand up and say hi to someone you don't know? Don't be afraid. Okay, actually, now that you've stood up, can you come more in the middle so I can see, like, so we're less dispersed? That'd be really helpful. Come through.
Yeah, it's right in my eyes. I'm just looking. It's fine.
Right, so for those, we said hi, which is good. For those who don't know me, I'm Rebecca Rowntree. By day, I'm a creative director, and on the side, so to speak, I run a platform called Get Shit Done. The reason I started this platform is because in 2017, I was getting very frustrated with my own voice, because I kept complaining about the lack of diversity in the creative world, let's say, and I wanted to do something about it, but it's a very big subject to tackle. So I thought, well, actually, one thing I'm really good at is doing brainstorms. So normally, at these type of events, I do the panel, and then at the kind of halfway through, we do a massive brainstorm, all of us together. We put our hand up, and we talk about an issue. And everyone in the room try and solve it. It's a lot of fun. We don't have enough time to do that today. We'll do the panel. But if you are interested, come and see me at the end. I can get your email, or you'll get a QR code, and you can connect with me on LinkedIn. So that's a little bit about me. I realized I haven't really described myself, which is quite important. I am Caucasian, quite short. I have big curly hair, so that's another thing about me. And today we've got quite a big subject, I think, something that we can all relate to, which is, you've got your degree, now what? What happens next? That's a very sort of stressful questions. But the good news is we've got an amazing panel with us that can explain about their career. So can I get a big round of applause for Stephen, Emma, and B? Right, one thing I prefer to do is to, rather than me introducing you, I'd love it if, Stephen, let's start with you. You introduce yourself to everyone in the room.
Hi everyone, thanks for joining us. I'm Stephen Bowes, I'm Head of Brand Propositions at Sainsbury's, which is a very fancy title, which doesn't really explain what it is that job is. So just to give you a little bit of context, my team are within the marketing department at Sainsbury's, and we are responsible for writing brand strategies to really sort of grow our brands. So there's a portfolio of brands, Sainsbury's, Argos, Habitat, and Tu. So we write brand strategies and we plan what we want to talk to customers about. And then just really briefly from an accessibility perspective, I'm also Caucasian. I'm not as tall as I declare that I am. I'm around 5'11". I have got a blue overshirt on, a striped t-shirt, some chinos, and my favourite trainers, which are some leopard print Adidas.
Very good, thank you. Emma?
Hi everyone, I'm Emma and I'm the creative director at Spotify, and I work in the advertising division of Spotify, so working with big brands when they have campaigns and how they put their partnerships onto Spotify. I am a Caucasian female with blonde hair, and I'm wearing all black apart from white socks with smiley faces on them.
Hello, my name is B. My pronouns are they, them. I'm a queer illustrator, creative, curator. Basically anything creative I will do.
I love that.
I'm not fussy. I have recently worked on some really cool campaigns, like with candy kittens. I've done some like big installations for typo and kind of like brand activations. I'm also the co-founder of a charity art exhibition and cultural program called Hysterical, which is an annual art exhibition that raises money for kind of charities that affect, charities that help even women and people of marginalised genders and the issues they face. And from an accessibility perspective, I am 5'10", I am white, I am a non-binary person with like short hair that is blonde, and I'm wearing pretty much exactly the same outfit as Stephen, except with blue trousers, which was not planned.
Oh, really? I thought you got the memo. No, sorry. That's brilliant. So we're going to talk, these guys have got the most awesome career advice, believe me. I know all about their stories. But I think what's really important is to give the audience context. So I would love starting with you, Stephen. Let's start from the very beginning. So where did you grow up? Where did you go to uni? And what led you to your career?
So I grew up in actually a pretty rough working class part of Manchester, and hopefully the accent's still there because I wear it as a badge of pride these days. I wouldn't say that in that sort of working class environment that a career in marketing, brand management, advertising was something that was pretty high on the agenda for anyone. I'm really hoping that sort of career advice has improved since the 90s, but back in those days it was essentially what do your parents do? Maybe you'd want to do the same thing or go and learn a trade. So really sort of wasn't on my agenda, but when I sort of reflect back in later life, all the signs were there for me. So I was obsessed with TV adverts, used to love watching the bits in between the films, was the person that was really annoying looking at the advertising in magazines more than the actual content features. So all the clues were there. I just couldn't really connect those passions and those interests with a career. It just seems a completely different world away. But I didn't really know what I wanted to do, if I'm being totally truthful with everyone. So I suppose there's sort of two things. If you're from an area or a background where you feel that industry I can't be successful in, I don't see anyone else in that industry that's like me, please sort of leave those thoughts to one side, because I think the great benefits of sessions like this is trying to create some of those pathways so that we can have a more sort of diverse creative industry. And I think the other thing that I would say is, if you haven't got it all figured out, don't worry. I definitely didn't have it figured out. The fact that you are here today puts you at least, 70% ahead of where I was at many of your ages.
That's so true.
But what I did, I suppose, was I followed my interests and passions and the things that excited me. So I kept making decisions that essentially gave me plenty of options. So whilst I was in the background trying to figure out what did I want from my career, what did I want from my life, I just made a series of decisions of following the things that I loved and give myself as many options as possible. So that led to moving up to Newcastle to go to Newcastle Business School, and I studied a business degree, which I thought would give me plenty of options. And within that, I was really passionate about the marketing areas of the module. So again, I was just sort of feeling my way, finding the things that interested me most. So then I specialised in marketing. And as part of the degree, I worked in industry for a year, which kind of got me out of that educational environment and out into the workplace. And something that was really sort of, I guess, life-changing in a career context was I got a role at Kellogg's, the cereal brand, which sort of exposed me to this huge global corporation with loads of amazing brands, and it was just such an exciting environment and the brands were so powerful. Yeah, that really sort of unlocked for me what I wanted to do, which was to build brilliant brands, to have this incredible advertising. So by the time that I went back into my final year at university, I was already a bit clearer on the direction of travel that I wanted to go in. And then I guess just fast forwarding, out of university, I applied for the most amount of grad schemes that you've ever heard of. I got knocked back for every single one of them. So again, if you're out there and you go through that process, don't beat yourself up about it. It's not the be-all and end-all to get onto a grad scheme. There are other ways of sort of forging a career. But at the same time, again, it was about options for me. So I was looking at entry-level positions, but in large organisations that might give me the opportunity to move my career in the directions that I wanted to move it into. So thankfully that sort of worked out for me. So I joined Sainsbury's, what would be around 16 years ago, actually.
That's a long time. So you definitely made the right choice.
Well, yeah, I think it just shows that if you find an environment that you can thrive in and that you can really appeal to the same sort of values and the culture that you can really make a success within. And I found that a big organisation provided that for me. So I started in commercial roles, and this is where I will show my age. So has anyone out there actually bought a CD? People know what a CD is. Oh, thank goodness, I'm not as old as I think I am. So I was working in the entertainment category to begin with, buying CDs, so essentially choosing the CD range that then got stocked in all of the Sainsbury's stores. And I absolutely love the music industry. And again, sort of one of the themes within this is go for things that you really love, like find those passions and really follow them, because if you're passionate about what you're doing, you're only going to set yourself up for success. And that sort of evolved. I moved into a similar role, but within video games in the heady days of the Nintendo Wii, where sort of gaming became, rather than this niche interest, something that became quite democratized, and there's a console in every front room. So that was a really interesting time period as well. But consciously wanted to move into marketing and sort of find that pathway. So started to think about, what do I need to do to be able to set myself up for success and move into marketing? So I started to form the right relationships internally. I started to think about dusting off the books back from uni and make sure that I was sort of well up to speed on all things marketing. And I managed to move within the business to become the brand manager for the clothing brand too. Which was a really exciting time, because it was sort of the first time that the business really acknowledged that there was a huge opportunity for the clothing brand to become less about essentials and more actually just taking on some of the high street clothing retailers. And that was a really sort of amazing time to be moving into that marketing role. And then a series of other movements within marketing. So from brand management, I moved into campaign management, was responsible for advertising for the two clothing brand, for our Habitat home and furniture brand, and led that team for around 3.5 years, and got to work on some amazing campaigns and some brilliant advertising on some of the biggest brands in the UK.
Well, I think a lot of people probably do know what Sainsbury's have created in terms of campaigns. We've done pretty well, let's just say.
And as I say, sort of having spent such a long time in the business, the fact that I've moved into different roles and had different challenges along the way has meant that it's gone actually quite quickly, and I've managed to pick up skills from all those different experiences along the way. And then most recently, sort of moved a little bit more removed from the creative and the advertising side into more of a strategy role. But again, that's been an amazing opportunity, particularly to be a bit more involved in the Argos brand as well, and to think about how we think about the future of those brands.
Because some people might not know this, but Sainsbury's own Argos and also Habitat as well. So lots of opportunities within Sainsbury's in itself. So career-wise, it's been really great to be able to dabble in so many different brands.
Yeah, absolutely. And each brand's sort of unique in its own way. It's got its different brand challenges. So trying to navigate those challenges and sort of expose sort of what you've learned and introduce it into those different brands has been a fun part of the journey.
Amazing. Thank you so much, Stephen. I'll jump to you. So you are different to these guys in some ways, because you work for yourself, which can be challenging in itself. So let's go back to the question. If you can give a very quick whistle stop as to which uni you went to and how you got into your career. Did you always know you wanted to become an illustrator?
I did not. I had no idea that you could even do that as a job. I didn't really understand that creative careers was an option. So I actually grew up in Cornwall and Devon, and my life plan was to be a competitive athlete. I used to be a swimmer. So that was kind of where I was heading with my career, and I was planning to study dentistry alongside it.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, so
different.
Nothing like this. But then when I was in my teenage years, I had a bit of a mental health crisis, which is obviously quite a common thing. I think 1 in 4 people in the UK
That's
will
right.
be diagnosed
Very
with
common,
mental health
especially
problems.
as a teenager. I think we could all relate.
Yeah, it's a rough time.
Yes.
So I ended up dropping out of education completely, lost all my motivation, did not know what I was doing with my life. And it was actually when I was recovering in hospital that I picked up a pencil and started drawing just to pass the time. And I was like, I'm sure people can do stuff with this. So I ended up going to the local college and begging to get on their fine art course. And thankfully they let me in because I had no GCSE art or anything.
It shows about your talent that they got you.
Or just persistence. And then I ended up graduating from there, going to the University of Edinburgh to study illustration, which was when did I graduate? 2021, I think. And then, since then I have been working full-time as an illustrator, creative, content creator, curator, all of the things.
And I guess another word that we could use, though it's not my favorite, I don't know, we haven't even discussed this, but influencer, because if you do see Bee's amazing work, she's got 100,000 followers plus.
I am chronically online.
Yeah,
yes.
so online. So unfortunately, it's part of your title for sure.
Exactly.
So you became an illustrator and you loved it. So it was really lovely that you had that kind of from a dark place, something really positive and really lovely. And also, it sounds like you get quite a lot out of it as well.
Oh yeah, it's definitely completely feel like I found my purpose in life.
Oh, amazing. Well, I really want to delve more into it, but I want to also hear Emma's story. So you tell me about your university and how did you think of becoming a creative director? Did it even come into your mind at all when you were a student?
Oh my goodness, absolutely not. I grew up in a tiny little village outside of Bristol, and I don't wear my accent proudly as a badge because I've washed it away, trying to pretend to be someone I'm not. But yeah, I went to university in Bath. I stayed at home. I didn't have the typical uni experience. It was just very much head down work. I'm not sure where my inspiration came from, but I always knew what I wanted to do.
Oh, wow.
Which is,
that's
I
great.
now, having the hindsight, realize that's quite unique because I know a lot of students sort of do A-levels because it buys them more time and they're not quite sure what to do next. But I don't know if it's all I had when I was younger was pop culture. I just took it up like a sponge, and everything I saw, I was like, no, we can do a better job. And I always had this desire to, it's a bit cocky, but
I want you to be cocky. Everyone wants you to be cocky, please.
Of just that can be better. Let's do better.
That's
so
amazing.
Everything I would see. I remember there was signage in my secondary school, and I'd be like, that looks shit. We can do so much better. So I'd just redo it and print it off the computers, and I'd be like, here you go.
That's amazing. Kind of.
And then, so when it came to, I guess I was in school and we had something called design and technology. And I think we got to design packaging for something. And I was like, yes, this is what I want to do. So found out that when I was younger, the creative industries were art, graphics, music. That's sort of it, the spectrum. So I thought, okay, graphic design sounds like what I want to do. So I did the BTEC in that for a couple of years, loved it to pieces. And then, went on to my degree. So design was my first and foremost trade that I loved. And then once I got into the world of design, just, as you said, the creative industries, it just wasn't a thing where I grew up, certainly.
But what's key, I guess, is that you went to university, and then how did you land your first job?
So my first job was at a design agency back in Bristol, and they were on the Unilever roster. Again, at the time, I didn't know what a Unilever was, but
pretty big brown, let's just say.
But they would say that word, and I'd be like, what the hell is Unilever? But then they would say, oh, Impulse or Persil, and I'd be like,
Dove.
oh, well, I know those brands. And I would spend a lot of time. I remember my first ever job that went live was designing the iconography for safety. Children do not keep out of reach for a personal tabs.
Yeah.
And I was like, whoa, I've made it. So when I saw that, I hadn't. But so it was a lot of, when I realized, I was like, okay, so what Unilever is, and then working in these bigger brands, and then you start to learn, we're working with a creative agency, and you're like, what's a creative agent? And you kind of get to learn what a strategist is and all of those sorts of things.
Yeah. So before, I wanted to ask you about what your day-to-day is like at your current job. But before I do, I would love to hear, I guess, more the kind of emotional state. Because I remember very clearly that trying to get in advertising was, one, fucking hard. Two, 1 minute I'd be like, I can do it, like you. I can do it. But then just complete lack of confidence and complete oh my God, I can't do this. And it's fucking scary. And will I ever get a job? And you know, those kind of feelings. Could you maybe talk through that a little bit?
Yeah, I just always had, you know what, I'm very comfortable with rejection. So
That's great.
all throughout uni, I would apply for internships. People would say, no, we don't want them. And I just keep going. And all through my first jobs, just apply. I just felt like I had nothing to lose. So just keep going. And I never let it kind of affect me.
That's
so
quite rare, by the way, because believe me, I had many rejections, and I think I still have them in my head, remembering some of those
just
creative
career-wise.
directors who were very brutal.
No, probably
great.
just career-wise, but yeah, I think I think rejection is never personal in terms of career, especially when you work where you work and you realise all of the rejection that you're doing, you're like, it's got nothing to do with the people.
And I guess what's important is that it's also very subjective. That's something that we should all remember, right? Especially when it comes to the creative world. You know, it's not necessarily like one person might love your work, the other might not.
Exactly.
So I think,
Exactly.
Yeah.
But yeah, I didn't even realize I was in advertising until I was in it. And then I was like, I remember there was a boss I had and he was like, this is the world of media. And I was like, I hate media. And he was like, what? So yeah, I don't know. I feel like I've just stumbled into the roles that I've been in, which I know isn't great advice or helpful. But I think there's like something nice about that blind optimism and naivety.
Yeah, no,
and just
absolutely.
being like,
Optimism as a tool is a must-have, especially when you're first starting, because it's the only way you can push forward, especially with criticism as well.
Yeah.
So obviously you work at Spotify. I'm sure a lot of you would be like, "Oh, Spotify, so glamorous, so cool." Do you see Rihanna all the time? I'm joking.
No, I can't get you Stormzy tickets. I can't get any tickets.
Can you give us an idea of your day-to-day, like a whistle-stop? I know it's probably quite complex, but...
Yeah, of course. So you mentioned Spotify. Every time you say I work at Spotify, people go, which is great because it's always great to work where someone knows what the product is, and when the product is so loved. Like if you ever ask someone, what are the 3 apps you'd never delete? It's always Spotify. But what I love about it is so I work in the advertising division, and it's kind of like an artist loving the sketchbook that they use, in the sense that the platform or the response that I always have, or the tool that I'm using, is Spotify. And I love the product. So for me, I'm like, right, great. Whatever happens, I'm using the product that I love and feel passionate about. And then what's exciting for me is I work with big brands who come to me with campaigns. So there's a new flavor of Coke, there's a new film, all of these different briefs. Just different exciting things in all different categories. And Spotify is just kind of the tools that we have to use to make something great. That is kind of what we do and what our mission is. But I will say creative director sounds very fancy. A lot, I'd say it's 5% of that is creativity and being shiny. It's sort of the cherry on the top. The rest of it is a lot of project management, managing, one-to-ones, meetings, stakeholder management. So yeah, a piece of advice is certainly pick up every skill that you can and never think, well, I'm a creative, that's not my job to be on time or manage that. Just take everything you can.
Yeah, absolutely. And by the way, that's true for every different job, really.
Yeah.
There is again, whether you're a creative director in an agency, you don't always do the very cool briefs, etc. You do have to do some of the more kind of boring stuff. But that makes also the stuff that you love even more exciting when you do it.
Yeah.
B, is it like that for you? In my head, you're having this kind of beautiful day where you're just drawing non-stop.
I wish every day was like that. To be fair, more days are like that than
Great.
I would have probably in any other job, which is fantastic. But there is, I think, so much more work that goes into kind of like the day-to-day of a creative career than you would expect. So yeah, some days are amazing. Like I just get up, I'm like, I'm going to draw something. I just feel like making something.
Nice.
And that's that. But other days I could have like 3 overlapping deadlines for big clients happening at once, and like 3 different meetings, and
And maybe it's worth explaining what it's like to receive a brief from a brand and the challenges, because I'm sure it's a lot of pitfalls, right?
I honestly think I'm like masochistic about it. I love when a brand sends a really complex brief and it's like maybe 4:30 in the afternoon, it's due for 9 a.m. on Monday. I feel like I do my best
Don't
work.
tell that to everyone. Everyone's going to be contacting you and just be like,
Hire me.
one day, brilliant.
No, I feel like I'm someone who tends to overthink a lot, and I feel like my best work is always the one I've just done when I'm not
Yes,
overthinking
that's so
what
true.
I'm doing.
Especially if you're creative, you need to have that fire, don't you?
Exactly, yeah. So I kind of love those, but it's always really interesting to kind of work to a brief that someone else has set. I really love like trying to adapt, because I have quite a distinct style of like illustration.
Yeah, you definitely do.
Yeah, it's always a fun challenge to make it work for like different kind of companies.
Yeah, absolutely. But you do that for brands, and you also do it for your own account, right?
Yes.
So that's lovely. So you can just like, when you get maybe frustrated in any ways, I'm putting words into your mouth, you might not be frustrated, but you know, you can sort of escape to your own drawings.
Oh my God, definitely. It's so good to have a balance of like, okay, this is the work I'm doing for other people, to kind of keep my skills like refreshed and be able to work for clients, and also just to like creatively vent and enjoy myself as well.
And how does it work? Do you have an alter ego that gives you a brief and...
No, I wish. No, sometimes I'm just making work and it kind of comes together quite nicely, and that's what tends to be what ends up getting seen by other people. But I have a room full of stuff that like no one ever sees, because I feel like every artist always hates their own work at first.
Yeah, and if for anyone who wanted to do more illustration for themselves, like what are kind of the key advice would you give?
I have so much advice.
Well, I guess what I'm thinking is working for yourself, because I've done that as a freelancer. It's quite, you've got to be really regimented with yourself, don't you?
Yeah, I feel like there's such a stereotype of like creative people, arty types. No, you have to be so disciplined and treat it like a normal job. And you know, even if work isn't coming in, you have to kind of, or at least I find it really helpful to still set myself projects and keep like creating stuff. But yeah, I think it's really important to keep disciplined and treat it like a regular 9 to 5, even if the hours are different.
Yes. And Stephen, what's it like for you? This is very different because it's a marketing world. I mean, because I know you and I know the type of work you do, it's constantly different, right?
Constantly different. The pace of retail as well is a challenge. It never stops. And you think about Sainsbury's stores, Argos stores, and then our product brands Into and Habitat. They're big brands, and the combination of having multiple brands makes things quite complicated sometimes as well.
Yeah.
But definitely resonate with some of the things that we've talked to as well around the technical part of the job is only one part of the job. And I guess what I mean by that is the creative skill set, the creating TV adverts or advertising work in general is the output and is probably not a big enough part of the role. Part of the role is galvanizing people, joining people up on really getting behind the same things. So in particularly big organizations, a lot of communication, a lot of influencing, too many meetings. So yeah, I think
Teams meetings.
But important because you can't go away and deliver anything in isolation. People is such a big, important tool, I think, within creativity. And
by that you mean sort of if you've worked out, because you look at a strategy for Argos, for example, and you'll go, this is what we need to do, X, Y, and Z, and then you need to go and speak to the stakeholders within Sainsbury's and get their buy-in.
Absolutely. So we would set that vision, but ultimately the investment that goes behind that vision, the execution of that vision, all sits within other teams. So without those teams, it stays on a piece of paper. So it's really about ensuring that others see that vision, that they're bought into it, that they really understand the role that they can play in delivering it. And that's how you get anything done, is through people coming together. So I would say that's sort of really, really important and undervalued skill to try and sort of develop as well as your technical creative skills as well.
And what I said at the beginning, that you have to wear so many different hats. There is also a very glamorous hat, which is that you get to go on shoots, you do lots of different creative things, you're kind of making sure that the vision stays true to the brief, right?
Yeah, and I think even for your own, if that's where you can draw your passion and strength from, it's an important part of managing yourself as well.
Yes.
So if that's the trade-off for the 5 meetings that you might have had all day, that you get to go and chat to someone about the creative work, that's how I balance my energy and motivation as well, is having a mixture of those things.
Yeah, so you've got it's very different brains, isn't it? Quite rational hat sometimes, and also very creative hat. And being able to tell a creative agency whether they're doing good work or not, and doing it diplomatically also, I'm sure.
Yeah, and again, it's about relationships.
Yes.
So I think understanding what it is that we're trying to do, being really clear on the technical side of things, which is, are we delivering what we set out to deliver? And if we're not, let's have that conversation and let's sort of fix it together.
Yeah, no, it's brilliant. I think it's fascinating. And what was really interesting is I was with Stephen on the train down, and you were saying, I love that it's nice and sunny outside because it means that more people will be at Argos. And
yeah, I think retail has ruined me because the sun shining is less about me thinking about the weekend and it's more about actually that's good for sales.
You live and breathe the brand. I love it.
Christmas it also is ruined within
and
retail.
And also the football, we're talking there. Staying with you, I would love to sort of go back to what you talked about earlier, because I think it was really fascinating, which is how you've handled failure. You talked about how you applied to all these different jobs and you got rejected, and that's, for anyone doing it, I mean, I remember being rejected from stuff and thinking, there is no way I'm going to be able to get a job, or, that is so demoralizing. But you stayed on and you've done really well.
I wish I had more of your characteristic around being bulletproof on the rejection. Some of it hurts, I won't gloss over it.
Do you still remember them? Because
yeah. There are a couple that shall remain nameless, that when that rejection comes through, I mean, you're lucky to even get a rejection sometimes, aren't you? You don't hear back from some.
That's right.
But I know it's a bit of a cliche, but with resilience, that is you have to live through it in order to understand more about yourself, in order to be prepared for the future, because life just doesn't happen the way that you want it to happen all the time. Your best laid plans that rarely come to fruition, so it's just part of that learning curve, but that doesn't make it easier when that notification comes through and you have your heart set on it and you can really see yourself being successful in that environment. But I think, as we've talked to, don't see it as a reflection of your capability, your potential. There are so many different circumstances with any of those opportunities that it could be any number of different things, and try and look forward and not look back. Yeah,
absolutely. I think that's really good advice. So just keep going. We talked about you being an influencer, and I know it's a bit of a loaded word, but I would love to give the audience a kind of idea of what that's like, kind of the good, the bad, and the ugly, if you like.
Yeah, it's surreal. It was never something that kind of I intended to go into. It was a very happy byproduct of just illustrating a lot and sharing that online. And then I've always been quite passionate about storytelling as a whole, and kind of towards the end of my degree, the pandemic obviously happened, and I was living alone, and I was kind of just about to graduate. So I started using social media as a way of kind of telling my story, but also illustration is a way of storytelling as well, I suppose. So it kind of married quite nicely, and then it turned into this huge thing that I didn't really expect.
Pretty huge, yes.
Yeah. So it's surreal. It's amazing. I feel like it's such a bizarre way to live, but obviously very grateful for all of the kind of opportunities and audiences that my work has been put in front of because of that. But I think also it's really important to remember that it's very easy to see someone's kind of follow account online and assume that they're incredibly successful and everything is amazing. And it's easy to feel like it's a one-way ticket to success, which it definitely isn't.
And it's hard work, I'm sure, as well.
Yeah. I think part of the work is making it look effortless, which is so hard as well. And I think also people kind of forget that social media is not real life.
No.
It's I'm guilty of it as well. I definitely struggle with forgetting that. And I think parasocial relationships are a terrifying thing. It's only been in the past couple of years that I never thought I would have to worry about stuff like this, but being really careful about your safety online, not giving out too much information, and not sharing where you are or key details it's just not something you consider. But
No,
yeah,
it's scary.
kind of terrifying.
I've seen stories, and it is. It's really.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah.
I just draw pictures, like, but yes, that's really important to kind of remember as well. And then, obviously, like when you do have a big audience, yes, it's amazing, but also, like hate comments, you have to develop such a thick skin to
Oh
kind
gosh,
of like.
I can't imagine.
Yeah. I mean, it does. Like you do kind of develop over time. Like you're kind of more resistant to it, but it doesn't it's not an easy thing to deal with.
Amazing. I'm just conscious we've got 10 minutes, so it's gone really quickly.
So fast.
Emma, I would love to talk to you. We talked already about the fact that Spotify is a really revered company, but it has, as you said, sort of less glamorous sides. I guess what's really interesting to me from all of you would be that what advice would you have given to your younger self? Would be the one thing that you wish you'd known? I guess I can start because when I was a young creative, I felt like I needed to fit a mold. God, how long ago was that? Like 20 years ago? No, less than that. 15 years ago. I felt like I needed to become this very cocky, confident, creative, and almost bolshy. And actually, that really isn't me. If anyone knows me, I'm more about empathy, and I'm more very emotional, etc. And one thing I would give to my younger self is never to try and be someone you're not, because it just doesn't serve you. And also, you're just miserable. So that's one of the advice I would give. What would you give, Stephen?
Along the similar lines, so I think mine would be, this can be difficult depending on your personality type, but put the time and investment into really understanding yourself. And you might not know specifically what role or what brand or what organization that you want to start your career in or end your career in. But the more you understand about yourself, what drives you, what are your passions, what are your interests, what are your values, you will make better decisions. And it is worth spending that time up front just sort of figuring yourself out, which is easier said than done. And this is definitely not something I did. This is a learning that I'm hopefully passing on to you guys to have a go at.
Emma?
I mean, I guess I kind of touched on it earlier where the rejection isn't a personal thing, but I think another thing I would say is no one knows what they're doing.
Yes.
Everyone's winging it. And the higher you get, and like the higher you see people, you're just like, oh, no one knows. So it's fine.
I love
There's no
that.
stupid questions because no one knows what they're doing.
And in fact, I would say that I really resonates with me because I thought I needed to get to a certain agency, to a certain level, and I would find the oracle. Like this is how they do it. No one knows.
Actually, it gets
and not only
worse.
that, they're just really good at lying.
Exactly. Actually gets worse.
Yes, the ego is a little bit bigger. Let's just say that. What about you, Ree? What would you say to your younger self?
Oh my God, I hard agree with the fake it till you make it, no one knows what they're doing. But I guess if I had to give a piece of advice to my younger self, it would be like not to just try and live the life that maybe you think that your parents want you to live or like people around you want you to live. Like there's no point in being miserable. Do what you actually want to do.
Oh my God, that's so true. I nearly did a philosophy degree because I felt like that's the best way to earn money. Actually, advertising can earn just as much. But anyway, yes, I completely know that. That's brilliant. Well, I want this audience to have their own questions because I want to hear what's on your mind. Before I do, and maybe have like your questions in your mind, what advice would you give to this audience? What is the one thing, like they're about to get into their first job maybe, or anything really, because I can see there's different age groups. So any advice for anyone sort of?
I'll give a practical one and then maybe a less practical one. So practical one, if you can, try and get some experience in whatever form that you can manage to try and get some experience, because you will learn a lot about yourself, what you enjoy, what you don't enjoy, the environment that you have in your mind around the workplace might be completely different once you're actually in there. So I think if you can find some form of work experience, then that would be definitely something that I'd encourage you to do. I think the loftier one that's less tangible is just focus on doing things that you love. Like it's just undervalued. When you think about life more broadly, like what are a thing to be able to do where you spend so much time of your life in the workplace. You've got to just do stuff that you really enjoy.
Yeah, I love that. And I think what's really nice is what you were saying about the placements, is that by doing lots of internship or placements, you give yourself a choice and you get an idea of what you like and don't like. I managed to do 8 in the kind of 1 year in industry, and I have to say it sort of opened up my eyes to, again, maybe bullshitters and all sorts of, like what you were saying. So it's really valuable. B, is there anything you would give to advice to this audience?
Yeah, for sure. I guess act at the level of the clients and jobs that you want to get is my key piece. I think on kind of building on faking it till you make it. If you act like you know exactly what you're doing and you're incredibly professional, people will believe you.
I was to the point about bullshitting, right?
Well, exactly. Like when I was still at uni, I was kind of working professionally as an illustrator and getting really big clients because I just didn't tell them I was a student and just pretended that I'd been doing it for a really long time. And
that's so
nobody
true.
checked. So
exactly.
I love that. I was actually just talking to a friend earlier, and I said I used to lie about my age, but I used to say I was older.
Nice.
Nobody knows my age. I keep it secret.
So smart.
You're too young to do that, for sure.
Or am I?
I think just go after absolutely everything. I think every opportunity that you see and want is yours. There's no reason you shouldn't go for it. If there is doubt in your mind, that's just your ego talking. Just go after absolutely everything. You've got nothing to lose.
Oh, I love that. That's very much in the spirit of getting shit done, is just get started. Right, now it's your turn. Now, I'll tell you a little thing. When I was a student, and actually I continue that rule, it's a really mean rule, which is when I'm in the audience, I make myself put my hand up, which is really mean, even if I don't have a question, because you know what? From that, you get something back. And we don't care. We're a family here. We're like, look at us. We're not that many of us. So put your hand up if you can, even if it's not the perfect question. We'd love to sort of, get these guys to answer your questions. So anyone want to put their hand up and ask a question? Yes, the lady there. Oh, she's coming, yeah. Oh, you need a microphone, I think.
Me and my friend, we just recently co-founded a creative studio. And
amazing. Well done.
Thank you. Like you said, we have absolutely no idea sometimes what we're getting into and what we're doing. So what would your advice be for like young creatives who's starting out their own business or own agency?
Oh, wow, that's a great question. Anyone want to? Oh, sorry, I'll repeat it. So what advice would you give to these two who've just started out their own creative agency, which is fucking amazing. Well done.
Thank you.
There's so many, right? I feel like, I guess, and I think I can see Laura could probably answer this, but finding the right people to work with, whether that's internally, the people to hire, but also the clients. I think to your point, Stephen, about loving what you do, you'd be very careful to chase the money because, yes, you could find a client that pays you money, but if they're horrible, you're going to have a terrible time. So do not do that. Find the people that you absolutely love and then just hold on to them and find ways to make it happen. Anything else?
I would just say, this might be teaching you to suck eggs, so if it is, apologies, but just find that thing that is distinctly you and your organisation. So where is that value add that your potential clients can't get from anywhere else? And then just really hone in on that and make it your absolute superpower.
Yeah. Oh, that's a great piece of advice.
I want to just +1 that. I love it. What's your unique perspective on creative? And I love that.
Do you want to add, or is it all
covered?
covered?
It's been covered.
Okay, I've seen a few other hands that came up. Do you want you in the front? Oh. Oh. Yes.
Congratulations.
Congratulations.
Congratulations. I love that question.
definitely get in contact. The sort of broader answer would be yes, but there's not a specific scheme. So it's sort of more of a situation by situation basis. But we should catch up.
Yeah, and I think we do as well. But I believe it's a summer internship, and I don't know whether it's maybe slightly too late for this year, but certainly for next year. Yeah.
But really?
Yeah.
That's crazy.
Sorry.
I do think it's not gone the right way. I mean, it was so much easier in my day to get, like, that's why I got 8 placements, and I think HR got in the way. That's my feeling. But partly because it should be paid, which is the right thing, but that takes a lot of paperwork. But it's good that you asked that question, because part of getting shit done, I can't stand doing nothing. So these guys have very nicely said that they could do one-on-one mentoring, and they'll come on to talk about that in a bit. So it's not placement, but at least mentoring, which is pretty awesome. Sorry, B.
Sorry, I was just going to say, in terms of, because so many of my kind of friends and colleagues from university and stuff were in a really similar position. One of my good friends runs Bricks magazine, who also have like a learner platform where they post like paid opportunities, internships. I think you have to subscribe, but it's really worth looking at for kind of like, I think they do like monthly updates of different opportunities that are coming up.
What's the name again? I missed
It's
that.
Bricks magazine, and they have a learner platform.
Magazine. Amazing.
Yeah, they're really cool.
Okay, brilliant. Great question. Okay, you in the front. Sorry, you put your hand up. You had a question. I think the microphone's coming to you.
Thank you. Yeah, I was actually one of the students Lucy was just talking about. Yeah, it's really fresh, but it's just sort of... So I'm like a traditional illustrator. That's like my main discipline. I can do other things as well, but that's what I really want to focus on. That's like the dream.
Sorry, illustration, did you say?
Yeah, traditional illustrator.
Okay. Oh, data.
But
amazing.
when I look at opportunities, it's always, you've got to be a digital illustrator and stuff like that. So my main question here is if that opportunity doesn't exist, or that market you don't know how to break into, how do you do it? Like,
Oh, that's a great question. I'm looking to you, B. Sorry.
Oh my gosh, no, that's so fine. I think you can just be so adaptable. Like, it depends what kind of work you make, but you might make traditional formats of illustration, but maybe you could kind of repackage it in a way that could be suitable to like digital campaigns, but not lose the like quality of your work. Or, you know, there are so many ways to be an illustrator that's not like, there's no one size fits all, if that makes sense. Like, you might sell prints of your work. You might, like, I don't know, there's just so many ways to go about it. But yeah, it's really overwhelming. I've been there.
yeah, it's still really early days, and I feel like I shouldn't be trying to rush it, but I can't help but try and rush it, you know?
No, keep going. I know it feels kind of stressful, but yeah. I'm conscious of time. I've just looked. So I think because we need to do the selfie, I think if you come at the end and find us, we're going to stay a little bit if you have a question. What I would love to do, in the spirit of getting shit done, this is something I've been trying to do. So one thing, when you're a student, you might feel, or when you've just graduated, like you guys have, you might feel quite lonely. And actually, we can help. We're going to do one-to-ones, as I said, and please come and see us. But actually, everyone in this room can help each other. If you connect with one another, you can really help each other. What do you do? You could probably like promote each other's portfolios, for example. You could like people's posts on LinkedIn or Instagram or wherever. Or you could say, hey, my company's got a new job, anyone interested? But by connecting together, we are more likely to help each other. So, to that spirit and getting shit done, do you remember this? The selfie. I'm going to try and do that. We're going to cheat it, because I want you all to stand up in the middle. These guys are going to come in the front, and I'm going to take a picture. I'm going to then post it afterwards, give me an hour, on LinkedIn. I want you to comment on it and say, I was here, and I want to connect with all of you, and I want all of you to connect with each other and help each other. So if you can come to there. Yes. Yes, thank you. I'll tell you at the end. Right, oh, yeah, just if you go behind the guys. That's right. Squeeze in, squeeze in. Look, it looks like we're 500 of us. Okay, right, let me just concentrate now. This is the hard bit. Okay, ready? I want you to put your hands up and say, get shit done. Get shit done. Amazing. One last time. Get shit done. Get shit done. Amazing. Right, last time I forgot to say, there's a QR code. Take a picture of it. Connect with one another. This is about you helping each other. And thank you so, so much. Thank you to the Creative Festival. Thank you to our panelists. Thank you to all of you. Thanks.